Hello. Today I want to talk about thinking positively all the time. Now, when a lot of people talk about how they want to think positively, more often what they really mean is they'd rather not think about certain things, dwell on certain things, and in a way that makes them feel upset or distraught or distressed, maybe depressed, and they'd like to be able to avoid doing that more often. So I want to focus on that a little bit and talk about how people can avoid doing that. So firstly, a few examples of people who seem to be able to do that very well are a place to start. So take, for example, a tennis player who's playing a tennis match and they're losing a few points. They could lose interest and decide they're going to throw the match, or they could look at what they've been doing and learn some lessons from that and move on and improve and perhaps even win the match. And the way they seem to be able to do it is stay very calm and avoid getting themselves upset. Now, another example is somebody who watches a match between two players. Perhaps that person is very supportive of one of the players, and the match is a very close match, and the player that they're supporting loses in a very close match, and they would look at that match afterwards or even during the match and think it was a terrible outcome, a horrible match, and they're very upset about it. Now, another person could be watching the same match and be supporting the one who wins the match, and for them it's a very exciting match, a very enjoyable match. So the idea that we need to look at here is, how do we separate the emotion from the facts? How do we take a situation that we're looking at and become emotionally separated, detached, if you like, from those thoughts? So if you're thinking about something and it's making you a little bit upset, you might want to come up with some strategies about how to become emotionally detached. Easier said than done, but a good way to do it, though, is to practice doing that. And before you do that, it's a good idea to get yourself in a mood where you're very calm and feeling quite good about life and all your own skills and abilities. So if you take something that you really enjoy doing, perhaps it's gardening, perhaps it's painting or listening to music, going for a walk, doing some hobby or following some interest, perhaps playing sport, something where you really enjoy what you're doing, and in that scenario you're able to look very calmly at all the things around you, all the issues around you. Think about them in a very dispassionate way sometimes, rather than in an emotionally upsetting way. So for example, you might have a prize flower that you're growing if you're a gardener, and you discover some aphids or some caterpillars or some problem with those flowers, or with that flower, and you very calmly resolve the situation because you know what you're doing, you know how to think things through, you know how to get help if you haven't got the information yourself. You know exactly how to solve problems without getting upset, and you've been doing that for years because you're very expert in that situation and you're very good at it, and there's no problem. So it's a good idea to get yourself into that frame of mind. Perhaps get out and do a bit of gardening, or go for a walk, or listen to some music, or you could just think about doing that and visualize yourself doing that and get in that frame of mind. Even though you're not physically there, you could be there in another way, in your mind. And while you're there, you know you can resolve anything. You're very good at those sort of things. And with your gardening hat on, or your headphones on if you're listening to music, maybe that's a good time to introduce your vexing situation, the one that makes you feel a little bit distressed, and look at it from the point of view of a gardener or a music lover. So the key then is to really look at something from a different perspective. Look at it from the perspective of someone who is good at solving problems. The tennis player who's very calm, who always keeps positive, keeps thinking that they can succeed, keeps looking at the various facts, analyzes them, works out what lessons they can take away from them. So if you can look at a situation in a dispassionate way and look at the various points, learn a lesson from that, and then move on, that's really where you want to go. A good example of that is a man who goes to the doctor, and the doctor says to him, look, I've got some terrible news for you. You've got a terminal illness, you haven't got long to live, and I'm sorry about this terrible news. And the man says to the doctor, well, that's not terrible news, that's just news. And he goes away, seeks some help from a good naturopath, works on his health, and slowly gets himself better. Goes back to his doctor, who's amazed. Now, how did you do that? Says his doctor. He said, well, I just thought positively about the various things I could do to get myself better. So that's a good example of taking a situation that might be distressing, looking at it from a different perspective, from the perspective of somebody who knows how to solve problems, who looks at a situation and thinks, what can I take away from this? What can I learn from this? And how can I move on? So that's my story for today. I hope you can take something away from it and think positively all the time. Good luck.